Good morning. Today I'm going to be covering the first topic in my Author Fears series um, because first of all, I was so excited to see that one of my clients has a book coming out today. And it made me think that, a lot of people are seeing that too. They're saying, well, when am I going to get my book out? Oh, I'm not quite ready. Well, why are you not quite ready? Are you really not quite ready, or is there something that's actually keeping you from getting into the process and just getting it done? Because once you start into it, it's not as hard as you think it is. So I hear a lot of excuses, and I think some of them are legitimate excuses, like you really just do not have the time right now. That can be fixed by planning. But that is a legitimate excuse. I don't have time right now because it's summer and my kids are home and we're doing XYZ. Understandable. But are you going to keep making those excuses? Are you going to get to the root of what the problem really is? Because if you don't do that, then you're never going to get this book out there. So that's why I wanted to talk about author fears. And the first one is feeling exposed. Now, there are lots and lots and lots of things you could be, kind of afraid of as far as being an author, but feeling exposed is one of the biggest ones. So sometimes when you're stuck and you're like, I don't want to write, maybe it really is writer's block, or sometimes it ends up being this feeling exposed problem. So sometimes you feel like people are judging you. Or you feel like, oh, people are going to say this about me. What you're actually afraid of is putting yourself out there. You're afraid of telling your story. You're afraid of saying, hey, this is my process. You're afraid of saying, this is my background and it's not pretty. Or you're afraid of saying, I have some crazy ideas and I love them and I stand behind them, but somebody else might not agree with me. So there are a lot of different ways that this feeling exposed thing can show up. But what it boils down to is you feel like people are judging you. They are staring, they are talking about you behind your back, because in reality, when you write a book, you aren't getting feedback from every person that reads that book, right? And sometimes when you let those kind of thoughts get into your head, that's all you've got going on. So you're sitting there thinking, oh, if I tell this story, if I tell them about what happened here, then somebody's going to read that and they're going to say something about me and I'm not going to know what they're saying. So there are a lot of different ways that you can look at this because, obviously you don't want to be embarrassed. You don't want to, be afraid to share these stories. You've made some decisions in the past that are good, they're bad, whatever, but they've led you to where you are today. So part of it is owning that, just knowing, hey, this is what happened, this is why I'm here today, and I don't, I'm not afraid to put that out there. I'm not afraid to share that with you because I know a lot of you are making those same mistakes or making those same decisions or are having to make some tough choices. And that's what you need to talk about, because if your audience wants that, if that's what, the people that you help are needing that sort of thing, then those are the pieces that you need to talk about. Because your story is very important, right? What you've been through is part of your business. It's part of, what you're trying to explain to people. This is part of your brand. Even the yucky parts are part of your brand. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, this feeling exposed. And I think the email I sent out, I said, a lot of people have that dream where they're standing in the middle of a room in their underwear and everybody's just gawking at them. It's a real fear for a lot of people. I tend to be somebody who's not as afraid of getting up in front of everyone and, talking, or, I was raised doing a lot of dance, doing a lot of performance. So I don't have that fear of getting out in front of people and being like, hey, this is what I do. But a book is a little bit different, because if you weren't at that one performance, you probably won't see that performance. But anybody can pick up that book, right? So it tends to have a little bit of a different mental cycle for you. So what I want you to start with is don't feel like everybody's judging your writing. You have to get that thought out of your head because not everybody is judging your writing. A lot of people are reading what you have to say and they're going, oh, wow, that's really relatable. That's something I've been through. That's something that I might have to go through. I'm glad I read about that ahead of time. I feel more prepared now. I understand that better. If somebody needs to walk through a process, oh, they can understand the different steps better than if you just, throw them right in, right? So it can be kind of tough to think, oh, everybody's not judging my writing, because it can feel like they are. But you have to keep in mind a few things. Your story is important. It's different. It's not perfect, but you tell it perfectly for your audience because you've been connecting with these people and you know what they need to hear. So part of writing, it's part of this whole writing process is owning that story, owning that experience, and then keeping that fear of criticism from letting you write your book. So a lot of this tends to be, fear of criticism, not just what are they talking about, but are they saying something bad? Every writer on the planet has had a negative critique of their writing. I myself have actually been told that one of my books was just like another book, which it actually wasn't, and I had never read that book. One of my pieces was, oh, this is just terrible. Nobody's going to read this. When I was actually in high school, and this is kind of funny, the AP English teacher, I didn't take AP English, I took honors because I wanted to do the honors coursework. It looked more fun. And I was a very busy person. So I took honors English my senior year, and we were allowed to do like a kind of a practice AP test. And the AP teacher took me aside and said, you don't write very well. You aren't prepared for college at all, and I really think you're wasting your money if you take the AP test. And I looked at her like she was crazy because I had the confidence in my writing and I knew that I was a good writer. So I took the AP test anyway, and I actually did get some college credit for classes with it. So not a waste of money, but everybody on this planet, even very good writers. I myself have now written 8 books. I have 2 degrees in English, and I've had people tell me, hey, you're a terrible writer. I have 10 degrees, or 10 degrees. I have 10 years of experience as a professional writer for the government. And I had people there tell me, oh, I don't like this, or I don't like that. Things are going to be subjective. Not everybody's going to like everything that you write. But if you're writing for a specific audience, that makes it so much easier because you know what they want to hear. And if you're writing a book, chances are you already have a lot of those people in your audience who've been listening to your videos, who've been coming to your talks, doing your workshops, paying attention to what you're writing, and they are really excited about your book. So those are the people that you need to be talking to when you're writing in your head, not you. Don't talk to yourself when you're writing. Talk to the people who you're going to be helping because you've already been through all this, okay? Your journey does not need validated by anyone else. You've been through it. You need to explain it in your book because someone in that audience is going to pick up the book, they'll see it, and they'll be like, this is amazing. This is exactly what I needed to hear. So, see, I'm just skimming my notes here. And we get critiqued all the time. So if you do get a critique, I want you to consider the source of the critique. So if this is somebody who is typically negative, somebody who is typically critical of you, or just someone who's out of the blue seems to be a mean-spirited person, you can't let that person ruin your day. You're choosing to let that ruin you. And when you have all these positive things going on, chances are you have a lot of compliments. You have a lot of people telling you, hey, I love your blog posts. Oh, I loved that last article you wrote. was at your workshop and I thought it was amazing. And if you focus on that one person who was like, well, I didn't like this, then that's what you're going to be feeling the whole time you're writing. So you cannot let that keep you in fear mode. You know, feeling exposed is tough, but you want to make sure that you're feeling, you know, the positive energy of all those people who appreciate what you're doing. So consider the source. If they're criticizing you, do you really need to listen? Does it help you? Are they giving you some positive feedback? Something that's saying, hey, you can fix this, or I'd rather see this, or is it insulting? If it's just insulting, put it out of your mind, focus on all those compliments that you get, and those are the people you're helping with your writing. So, you know, if you think that this could be something that's kind of keeping you from your writing, I'd love to see you do some journaling around this actual topic. So I love giving people journal prompts because that's what gets you to really dig deep and get to the root of the problem, instead of just giving that like off the cuff answer. So what I'd like you to look at is, who is my book going to help? Because those are the people you're going to be talking to when you're writing the book. What do they need to hear from me? So you want to know what their problem is, what the solution could be. You know, even if there's not a solution, maybe something that could ease their journey a little bit. And why is this such an important thing? Why do I need to get this message out to the world in a big way? Because if you have a business, you have a message. You have a mission, you have a goal, whatever you want to refer to it as, that's yours. And that's part of your brand, and that's what needs to be in that book. So if you know what that is, and you know who you're talking to, you know what they want to hear, you've already got the biggest pieces of the puzzle done. I always think it's funny when people think that you just sit down and like bang out a book. Okay, here it is, done. That's not how it works. You have a lot of work before you actually get into the writing part. And this is part of it. It's figuring out who these people are, what they want to hear, why it's so important, how I'm helping them with a solution. And when you're focusing on that sort of thing, instead of, you know, focus on who the book is helping, instead of those what ifs, you know, oh, what if this person says this, or what if so-and-so says this, and what if someone else who is a colleague of mine or a competitor says this about my work. Well, what does that say about them? If you have a competitor out there trash talking you, what does that say about them? Nothing good. It says more about them than it does about you. So don't worry about that sort of thing. Focus on who you're helping, because what people think isn't all that important unless it's your people. If it's your audience, that's important, right? So, you know, yes, people need to read this book because you are helping them with a process. You are telling them how to get through what you did, giving them clarity, you're giving them hope, and you're giving them a clear path to success. So I just want to wrap up by saying, if you have questions about this, if you feel like this is something that you've been struggling with a little bit, do those journal points, you know, rewind the video a little bit and write those down. And then you can comment in the thread. I'm happy to chat with you a little bit about this because I know this is a huge, huge problem for people. Overcoming writing fears is also an ongoing process. So even, you know, I'll sit down sometimes and go, oh, wow, you know, I've taken a major step forward. What is this? What do I have to do? So it's, you know, you're not alone. It's all of us. So I want you to come back tomorrow because I'm going to be talking about another one. It is the writing fear. No one will read this. And no matter how you're saying that in your head, whether it's, oh, no one will read this, or like, nobody's going to read this. Why am I even bothering? It's probably affecting you. So I want you to tune in tomorrow. I'm going to be back on here live at 9:30. So make sure you, you know, go to my business page. If somebody shared this video or you just see it in your feed, go to my business page and like it, and make sure you mark that you want to see posts from this page so you can see when I go live and check out the videos, because I want to help you get through all of these crappy feelings and actually get your book out to the world. So have a great day, and I'll be back on here tomorrow at 9:30.